Hey everyone, tonight we're starting with something universal. Sleep. That thing we chase, crave, and for many of us, feel we're never quite getting enough of. We've optimized our mattresses, blacked out our rooms, and banned blue light. And yet, so many of us still find ourselves staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., convinced something's wrong with us. What if I told you that wakefulness in the middle of the night isn't a glitch? What if it's, in fact, an ancient rhythm, a biological program we've simply forgotten how to run? For centuries, perhaps millennia, the default human sleep pattern wasn't a single, solid block. It was something else. Something that would feel utterly bizarre to us today. So before we get comfortable, if you enjoy diving into the lost corners of history with me, do take a moment to like and subscribe. It truly helps. And let me know in the comments, where are you tuning in from? And what time is it there? It's always fascinating to see our global community of night owls and history lovers. Now dim your lights, get comfortable. Tonight's story isn't about kings and battles. It's about the quiet, dark hours, the story of segmented sleep. The lost art of sleep. How our ancestors slept in 2 shifts. Act Y. The first sleep. A world without curfew. Imagine a world before electric light, not just before smartphones, but before gas lamps, before even widespread candlelight that was cheap enough to burn all evening. When the sun went down, darkness wasn't a mood. It was a physical reality. And it was expensive to fight. For the average medieval European peasant or artisan, life was tethered to this rhythm. You'd retire to bed shortly after dusk, maybe 8 or 9 p.m., not necessarily because you were exhausted, but because there wasn't much else to do. Your bed was often a simple stuffed mattress on the floor or a shared platform. The concept of a bedroom as a private space was a luxury for the rich. And it was cold, the hearth might bank for the night, so you'd pile in with your family, spouse, children, sometimes even servants or visiting relatives. Privacy, forget it. Warmth and safety were the priorities. In this collective darkness, you drift off into what was known then as your first sleep. Act 2. The watch. The magical hour of midnight. This first sleep would last typically 3 to 4 hours. Then you'd naturally wake up, not with a jolt of anxiety, but calmly. This wakeful period that followed was well documented and perfectly normal. It was called the watch, or night waking, and it wasn't spent fretting. For about an hour or so, people did things. You might tend to the fire, use the chamber pot, have a quiet conversation with your bedmate. A shepherd might check on his flock. For many, it was a time of profound intimacy, both physical and conversational. A 16th century doctor's manual even recommended this time as ideal for conception, as the body was more relaxed after the first sleep. But it was also a time for reflection, prayer, and interpretation. Your dreams from the first sleep were fresh. In a deeply religious world, this quiet midnight hour was seen as a bridge between the earthly and the divine. You might ponder a dream's meaning or say prescribed prayers. And here's my favorite part. For the creative and the cunning, the watch was prime time. The darkness and quiet were a canvas. A baker might start his dough. A tailor could mend by the last embers of the fire. And historians have found court records from places like 17th century France, showing that this was a surprisingly common time for petty theft, sneaking into a neighbor's garden, Because who's awake to see you? It was, in a sense, stolen time. An hour of quiet agency nestled between two sleeps. After this interval of an hour or so, drowsiness would return. People would settle back down for their second sleep, or morning sleep, which would carry them through until the first light of dawn. This segmented pattern, first sleep, watch, second sleep, was so ingrained it's referenced everywhere once you start looking. In medical texts, in diaries, in prayer books, even in classic literature like Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. So what happened? Why did we switch to one big, consolidated sleep? The hammer that broke this ancient rhythm in the West was the Industrial Revolution. Two forces collided. 1. Artificial light, gaslighting, and later electric light conquered the night. Streetlights made cities feel safer. Indoor lighting made it possible and expected to work, read, and socialize late. 2. The time clock. Factory owners needed a disciplined, punctual workforce. Time is money became a literal doctrine. Waking up in the middle of the night for an hour of contemplation was now inefficient. A single, uninterrupted block of sleep, just enough to make you functional for your 14-hour shift, became the new ideal. By the late 19th century, we find the first medical articles diagnosing the watch as a disorder. It was given names like maintenance insomnia. What was once a normal biological rhythm was now pathologized. Society had changed, and our sleep was forced to change with it. We consolidated. But here's the incredible part. Our biology remembers. In the 1990s, psychiatrist Thomas Weir ran a landmark experiment. He placed subjects in a dark environment for 14 hours a day, mimicking the long winter nights of the pre-industrial world. After a few weeks, their sleep patterns spontaneously bifurcated. They fell into a distinct biphasic rhythm. Sleep for about 4 hours, wake for 1 to 3 hours of quiet, alert relaxation with a distinct spike in the hormone prolactin associated with calm, then sleep again for another 4. The medieval watch wasn't just a cultural habit, it appears to be a biological default. So what does this mean for you lying awake tonight feeling frustrated? First, a dose of comfort. That wakefulness at 2 a.m. may not be your enemy. It might be a ghost of your ancestral rhythm knocking at the door. The anxiety you feel about it, I need to sleep or tomorrow will be ruined, is often worse than the wakefulness itself. Second, a historical perspective. Our rigid 8-hour in one go ideal is a modern industrial invention. It's not the only way to be healthy. Many cultures have embraced siestas or segmented sleep. Finally, a suggestion. If you find yourself awake in the watch, don't fight it with scrolling or panic. Try what our ancestors did. Get up, move quietly, have a cup of water or warm milk. Read a physical book by a soft light. Meditate. Write down the strange dream you just had. Don't turn on the digital world. Treat this hour not as lost sleep, but as found time. Your mind is naturally alert. See what gentle thoughts arise. We've engineered our world to be always on, but perhaps our oldest selves still crave that peaceful intermission in the middle of the night, that silent, dark space between two sleeps, a time not for production, but for presence, for soft thoughts, intimacy, and a quiet communion with the self. So tonight, if you wake, remember the watch. You're not broken. You're just experiencing a deeply human rhythm, one that our brightly lit world has tried, but perhaps failed, to completely erase. But what do you think? Have you ever experienced this two-phase sleep? Does this history change how you view your own rest? Let's have an incredibly chill conversation about it in the comments below. And if you found this journey into the past meaningful, give the video a like, subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time. Until then, sweet dreams, or should I say, sweet first dreams.